dijo Alma, el mercado está soportando y aguantando. Vamos a traer al primer invitado que tenemos el día de hoy, que aparte de que es un especialista en todo lo que tiene que ver con el mercado de capitales en los Estados Unidos, es un amigo personal, es bien conocido en todo el sector de asesoría hacia lo que son los family offices y hacia todo lo que son los hedge funds, que son los fondos de cobertura. Y como ustedes comprenden, él es el CEO y el fundador de una compañía que se llama 𝐕𝐢𝐝 Consulting, además que tiene unas excelentes conferencias. Vamos a hablar con él en inglés y efectivamente vamos a poner dentro de poco esos subtítulos. Le doy la bienvenida a 𝐕𝐢𝐝. 𝐕𝐢𝐝, how are you? How you doing? I'm glad you are accepting to be interviewed with us. And obviously, I'm very happy. And the first question, so we can start right away.
Okay.
There is a lot of confusion with that, with all this situation with the tariff. You know, there is 145% or perhaps the 80%, the 90%, more than 50%. Yesterday, we got a little bit of some of, let's say, enthusiasm because the UK and the United States are basically signing something that it might be at some point completely solidified. But I want exactly what is your opinion and the implications, because this is extremely important for all of us to understand what's going on at this point. And thank you for coming with that.
Thank you very much, Victor. I really appreciate that. It's a great channel to be on. So yesterday's trade deal framework between the US and UK is the first major agreement since the US launched preemptive tariffs. Here we can see a number of container ships sailing from China to the US. It has kind of stagnated in terms of the upward direction here, which is positive. But, you know, you can see this is a very, very steep decline. Impact on retailers, just to give you a background. The tariffs have prompted many retailers and consumer brands to pivot their focus from US to Europe and other global markets. For example, Hugo Boss has rerouted China manufactured products to other markets instead of the US and said there was a notable deterioration in US consumer spending in the first quarter due to growing uncertainty over the economy. Other large consumer brands are adjusting supply chains, rerouting products, and reassessing marketing strategies. Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, will meet Chinese officials this weekend. Bessent was recently quoted that 145% tariff on goods from China is the equivalent of an embargo, and that US and China have shared interests and we don't want to decouple. What we want is a fair trade. That's what he said. This morning, Trump indicated that he was willing to lower tariffs on China to 80%. However,
yes,
80% could still be seen as prohibitive to trade. It's also much higher than the 10% baseline tariff in the US-UK trade agreement that was reached yesterday. Just to mention one thing more about what you just asked me, China is one of the US largest trading partners. In 2024, the US exported 144 billion in goods to China, while imported almost 500 billion, according to the Office of US Trade Representatives. So that's why we're having these issues. And you know, please go ahead with your next question.
So listen, not only that, because I think the other important part with that is absolutely that those are the numbers that has been reported, but via Vietnam and other economies, President Trump was pretty clear to letting us to know that it might be over $1 trillion in imports that the U.S. is really bringing from China. My second question is basically, we have a lot of portfolio managers, we have a lot of analysts, but also we have people that want to trade and take advantage. And I would like to know your opinion about what are the companies or the sector that you think are most likely to either face headwinds or basically benefit from all these distortions in the market. And I think you are very keen trying to analyze for those family offices and hedge funds, where do you think this is going so you can advise our audience?
Yeah, great question, Victor. Thank you. Well, the result of tariffs is likely to be twofold, right? Number one is reduction in demand for many goods, which might be reflected in some weakness in GDP results. Number two, U.S. employment levels may rise from the reshoring of production, as /2B, for low-skill positions, construction, manufacturing, labor costs might spike until there is more widespread introduction of robots and other technologies. So who are the losers? While not yet fully appreciated because there is a lag effect, if the tariffs stand, there's likely to be a 20% to 50% increase in retail prices in many items to cover the tariffs. So who are the losers? Shippers, right? Large container ships. The volume of shipping will decline. Global shipping activity, for example, is experiencing, significant declines, which, it's pretty much what we can see here, container bookings from China to the US, particularly from China. So there is a 35% drop in import booking volume since late March and 40% decline in Chinese shipment in the last full week of April. Now, who are the other losers? The retailers and consumer good firms. So in 2023, 60% of Walmart goods were imported from China. About 60% of its imports, particularly items such as clothing, electronics, toys, are from China. Other retailers such as Target, Home Depot, Best Buy, that we go, Americans, we all go to all these big shopping malls, and consumer good manufacturers such as Nike, Under Armour, they're going to be, greatly impacted. Then another losers is auto industry. Approximately 50% of the vehicles purchased, I'm talking about auto consumers, not auto manufacturers, obviously, in the United States. So approximately 50% of the vehicles purchased in the United States are imported. In 2024, Americans bought approximately 16 million cars, SUVs, and light truck. And 50% of these vehicles are not imported. So the average domestic content is conservatively estimated at 50%. So that means with the current tariff levels, the cost of new vehicles is likely to rise from 12 to 25% approximately.
Listen, it's extremely interesting. I want to ask you another question.
Yes.
So if you have to articulate, how do you envision those inflationary pressures to go and affect the broader economy will be great. Not only because of this is extremely important, but in this closing of the Wall Street that we have this tension, after you, we're going to have the former ambassador of Mexico to China, Jorge Guajardo, and he's basically going to explain most of your ideas to our audience. But I want your opinion on if you see that pressure, because if you really see what Walmart, Target, and other companies are afraid of is how big it will be the elasticity of the demand when they try to transfer that in an economy that is seeing contraction. And that's what I think they need to end up negotiating something quickly, perhaps this weekend, because it's not only China, the one that is going to be suffering here. The U.S. might suffer greatly for the next, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks. What do you think in terms of the inflationary pressures that can cause some sort of major dislocation and problems within the next few weeks here in the U.S. be that?
Well, we don't have shortages of goods in U.S. stores yet, but the deterioration in global shipping is if it's an indication, they are on the way. So with most apparel manufacturing having been exported overseas, only 2% of the clothing Americans buy is manufactured domestically, Victor. The increased tariffs are likely to lead to high prices for a range of consumer goods, including electronics, clothing, household items, and retailers may pass this cost onto consumers, onto us, potentially impacting our spending and overall economic growth. So number one, so prices increases for everyday goods. Many consumer products sold in the U.S. are imported, especially from China. Electronics, smartphones, laptops, TVs, clothing and footwear, apparel brands, home goods, furniture, kitchen, appliances, toys. There's going to be shift in consumer behavior as well. As prices rises, consumers may cut back on discretionary spending. Fewer electronic upgrades, delayed home renovations. Then we're going to have a switch to lower cost alternatives, such as generic. So no more Hugo Boss, we'll have some other generic clothes. Buy less overall, particularly if wage growth doesn't keep pace with inflation. Inflationary pressures, as you just reiterated, there's going to be widespread price hikes due to tariffs, right? Which can contribute to inflation. So we mentioned this again, which reduces purchasing power. If inflation accelerates while economic growth slows, the U.S. could face a stagflation, which is the worst, right? So that means raising prices amid stagnant economic activity. Nobody wants that. And then number 4, we have a supply chain reconfiguration cost. Retailers and manufacturers are now seeking to diversify supply chains to reduce dependence on China, sourcing more from countries like Vietnam, India, Mexico. While this may help long-term, in the short term, transition costs will be high, and the costs are also likely to be passed on to consumers. So, so these are big issues, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Listen, I'm very happy that you come to our show. Obviously, it's a live show. A lot of people might be asking questions. I want to bring you back within the next few weeks. I'm going to be, as you know, from time to time in the New York Stock Exchange floor and traveling heavily to New York to cover everything there. Hopefully, we'll have some headlines that kind of impact positively the markets on Monday. I'm very nervous because I think the Chinese people, even though they are in pain, they can tolerate it. There is no democracy there. And I don't think they might be actually willing to jump into a deal right away. They might want to create some sort of pain for the Trump administration. Vida, thank you very much. We'll speak soon. And definitely, I'm glad you gave us that explanation. Thank you, Vida.
Gracias, Victor. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bueno, ya ustedes escucharon lo que nos decía Vida allí en una parte muy interesante e importante. Ya nosotros tenemos a nuestro siguiente invitado, pero quiero reiterarles algo que hemos venido viendo dentro de esas expectativas comerciales y también decirles algo cuando son las 3.